To be honest, I can't stand learning in a structural processing of any kind of education. So for me, it was just a relief. I finally was able to shine by studying by myself. You don't have anyone to hold you up or to push you too much. And, most of the things, to be honest, you can easily learn by yourself when it comes to computer science.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Turing, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and in media partnership with C-Tech. It's just unbelievable how quickly the health tech space is helping transform the healthcare system all over the world in just an explosion of new technology, new regulations, and new insights. Meet David Maman, the founder and CEO of Bina AI, an innovative and successful startup that is transforming the way healthcare services are being delivered and consumed. David is spearheading the Bina AI team towards its mission to make healthcare services available to anyone, anywhere, anytime. Using its award-winning technology, Bina AI allows users to extract vital signs and mental stress levels just by looking at a smartphone, tablet, or laptop camera. As serial entrepreneur, David is currently leading his 13th startup after driving numerous startups from vision to international success, including Hexatier, acquired by Huawei, Precos, Vanadium-soft, GreenCloud, Teridion, and more. David Maman, rock and roll. Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure being with you, Michael.
I'm very excited to have you here. The founder and CEO of Bina AI, that is doing really, in my mind, and I'm sure in the mind of millions, really, really important work, especially in 2021. And what we're seeing the world unfold with accessibility to wellness and to health and to healthcare. And one thing that I'm always understanding is that I'm living in this beautiful, beautiful place, whether it be Tel Aviv or California. And I'm so lucky to have all this infrastructure that I can even call, doctors and I can get this input, but most people around the world can't. And so I'm excited to hear from you a little bit deeper into the industry. But even before we dive into health tech and accessibility, tell me a little bit about David, because just simply going through your experiences on LinkedIn, I started hyperventilating from how many things you've done and all the incredible experiences. Walk me through some of the highlights that sort of shaped who you are as a thinker and as an entrepreneur.
I guess I was, first of all, thank you. Never hyperventilate because of me, okay? I don't want to take this responsibility. But I think that in a very high level, I guess I was always extremely intrigued by technology. My previous tagline in LinkedIn was a technology junkie. That's what I am. I am a hardcore technology junkie. I'm always into innovation. I'm always about thinking about how to create something or how to optimize something. It's an interesting combination of entrepreneurship. Many of us just improve something that is currently available. Doesn't matter if it's a product, a service. And some of us just create something from nothing. And I guess I was always intrigued between those two worlds of trying to create something from nothing and also how we can actually optimize the world we're living in, whether it's a product or something else. And I think that I started I was brought up in the north of Israel in a small city called Yokneam. Now it's actually a major city. Back then it was 4,000 people. And nothing was available. I had one library. Some people don't really use libraries anymore, but back then we had to go to a library to consume some sort of information. And I was always intrigued on finding new ideas and new stuff. I was a very troubled kid, to be honest. I was thrown away from school at the age of 14 and a half, probably. Yeah. So I had to study by myself and learn by myself. And I just couldn't stand the structured organizational education system in Israel back then. And I'm also, I'm a hardcore autodidact. I learn by myself. And I'm also, I got dyslexia. So it's a bad combination to be in an organized, education system when you have this kind of two combinations.
And so even after 14 and a half, you go to the Open University for your bachelor's and your master's. And, the Open University, I remember from my army days, I had a bunch of soldiers that were during the Open University, how difficult it is, because essentially it's self-teaching, across 2 degrees, it sounds like, from what you did. And so
Yes.
it's quite a challenge, I'm assuming.
So, honest, I can't stand learning in a structural processing of any kind of education. So for me, it was just a relief. I finally was able to shine by studying by myself. You don't have anyone to hold you up or to push you too much. And most of the things, to be honest, you can easily learn by yourself when it comes to computer science. But there are several things when I took it also to the physics part and to the, I guess, hardcore engineering. Like RF. RF, radio frequencies, is something much harder to study by yourself without any help. But I guess that was the best optimized process for me. Learn by myself, study by myself. For some people, it might be hard. For me, learning in a group is the harder part.
Is that a self-learning and this independence, this idea that you don't need to rely on the work done by previous people? Is that a seed that was planted for you, knowing that you're going to be an entrepreneur in whatever you do across the different projects you're going to be doing?
Now we take the world and the word entrepreneur and a startup for granted. Back then is, well, maybe I'll start something. I even didn't know I was an entrepreneur until my third startup company. And back then we didn't call it startup, we called it a company. Maybe we'll start a company. It was never a startup or anything like that. We even didn't get to the understanding of raising money. It sounds like I'm 80 years old, but I'm not. I'm talking about, the early 90s, the late 90s. Back then, it was very something exciting. For me growing up, my romance way of thinking was I wanted to be a developer. I wanted to be an assembly developer. I wanted to be a C a little bit later. It wasn't about anything else. Things that we used to do when it comes to developing was writing the code by ourselves. How can I manage the memory by myself? How can I manage the CPU reads? Now, if any developer touches those components, I'm going to slap him. Don't do that. The compiler is amazing. He's doing it in the best possible way. But for that, for us, for I guess my older generation that were really techy, really geeky, pure development was the ideal, I guess, way of thinking. But when you play a lot of games growing up, and back then games were not the games we see today, pre-PlayStation, it was Nintendo and a little bit VGA games and something like that. So you very quickly think about, wait, I can do something much more interesting. And I guess the first innovation and the first, I guess, entrepreneurship point of the way that I was thinking about, how can I make just a new game? How can I make something new because I just don't enjoy what I have available today. But let's be honest, I wasn't in a PlayStation generation. Yes, now there's so much abundance of things that are available for us. So we think about things differently.
One of the things that I just love so much about, this project is that I come into this conversation thinking, wow, I'm going to spend 20 minutes talking about accessibility in health tech and Bina AI and this awesome company. And we dive into this, philosophical question of what does it really mean to be an entrepreneur? I get inspired by these, experiences that are so genuine. Simply this idea that I'm not satisfied with what's around me. I want to be satisfied. And so perhaps I can use my skills to create a new, better world around me for myself and for many, many others. But fast forwarding now to Bina AI, you've been working on this for 5 years. This past year and a half, literally the headline every day in the New York Times has been centered around healthcare and the digital transformations that I'm guessing hundreds of thousands of clinics around the world had to make. And I'm thinking, well, you started this 5 years ago. What is Bina AI and where did it catch you when COVID-19 started? I want to get also to that day where you understood, like, wow, this is what we're meant to do.
I think that a lot of people trying to think about the lessons we'll learn from the pandemic, So I think that the core three things that I see that we've learned is, first of all, is that we are much more fragile than we thought we are. Extremely fragile. And when we started Bina, we came to this understanding that remote care is the future. because not just because we had a hunch. If we take a look at the reports of the World Health Organization from 2017, 2018, and 2019, they came to a very sad conclusions that about half of the world lacks access to essential health services. Half of the world. We live in this kind of a half of the world. I'm not kidding, man. This is serious numbers. You can check it out.
I feel like we need to pause at this statement because we throw statistics all the time. Half of the world
lacks access to essential health services. In the Western world, in the modern world, we live in a place, whether you're in San Francisco or in Israel, you have on an average about 3 doctors for every 1,000 people. Let's go to Africa. We're talking about 1 doctor for every 50,000 people, for every 100,000. Papua New Guinea. In the entire Papua New Guinea, 13 million people, they have 486 doctors.
No.
Yes. And actually, it's not just in extremely developing countries, but take a look on the rural side of China. There's still places when you have 1 doctor for every 10,000 people, 12,000 people, 20,000 people. Take a look at India, what's happening there, for God's sake. I really send my best wishes to India to go through this phase, and that's horrifying, of course. But when thinking about those kind of numbers, and that it's actually going to get much worse, within the next 8.5 years, by 2030, we're going to have lacking of 15 million medical professionals, nurses and doctors and everything. So it's going to get worse. So we thought about how everything in any kind of a medical consultation, any kind of a physician meeting, everything starts with the most basic fundamentals. How can I know how exactly you're feeling? Because even though feeling is something emotional many times, but eventually our body is a machine. And any kind of a meeting with a doctor starts with the ability of just extracting the most basic vital signs. Heart rate, oxygen saturation, respiration rate, heart rate variability, blood pressure, and all those kind of vital signs are the key, component of any kind of a medical consultation. And we thought that this kind of capability should be available anywhere. And I think that the core of understanding, and just in a few seconds we'll get to the pandemic, but I guess this kind of a self-care, self-observation, talking with a doctor, and we're able to extract those kind of vital signs, this is the basic of everything. And when pandemic hits, on February last year, who would have believed it? Almost a year and a half later, and we're still talking about that. But when it started, we sort of the humanity understood that self-care is not being spoiled. It's something that everyone needs. How everyone actually needs that today. Not only that we couldn't get to hospitals, maybe we were just scared, maybe people would not accept us without serious condition, but I think that the everywhere, it means work everywhere, be everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. You have to be able to get medical consultation. You have to be able to get self-observation in order to know exactly how you're feeling. And we thought about that only from the telemedicine perspective. Telemedicine is booming now worldwide. You see companies raising billions of dollars in order to provide remote telemedicine services. From our point of view, is about how you can make telemedicine exactly like you're in the physician office. Today, whether you're getting a video consultation session, a person just can ask you, okay, how you're feeling? What's wrong with you? Maybe if you have some sort of a rash, you can show it over the camera and the doctor will be able to see it. But besides that, nothing. Everything is about just asking you, oh, I have this pain in my eye. Maybe. But whenever a doctor can actually extract vital signs, even during a video consultation session, everything changes. A doctor can actually help you. And, we started this conversation with healthcare about countries that don't have any medical services. But let's go to New York. New York, ground zero when it comes to humanity today. Still, when you need to schedule a call or a session with a doctor, you wait for 2 weeks. And that's why telemedicine is booming. You can actually have a video consultation sometimes within minutes. And if the doctor can actually get your vital signs, he can make the right decision. And let's say I had a great call with a doctor. He's seen my vital signs. He gave me the best recommendation. 2 days later, how can you know that you're actually getting better according to the recommendation? So get your vital signs scan again. You can see whether you're getting better or maybe you're getting worse, and you should reschedule a call. I know I'm throwing a lot of data at you, but I'm just extremely excited about what we're doing because in the early 2000s, the major company that truly blew up are companies that had an impact. And I truly believe that this is a serious impact about humanity and about everything. At first, when we went out before the pandemic, everyone was thought, well, they're helping insurance company knowing if we're sick and we won't be able to get insurance. No, it was never about that. But when we're talking about industries that their entire risk assessment is based on knowing how you're feeling, yes, we also have some of the largest insurance companies as customers. But it was never about helping insurance companies. It was helping to have remote care available anywhere to anyone at any time.
The only thing I want to wish for myself coming out of this conversation is that one day when I'll run a company and I'll sit in your seat and I will be interviewed, I will have that energy and that passion and excitement to talk the way that you talk, because that really is the essence of what I'm trying to get here. And I think it's just completely inspiring that 5 years later you're so convinced to your core, and I can feel it, at how important the mission is. And it sounds like you were convinced way before the pandemic, and now the world has caught on and understood that, wow, we have a really big problem here, and a really big wake-up call. Now, tell me a little bit more tangibly, solving this incredibly challenging problem, bridging the gap from the telemedicine to the physical world, finding some sort of weird intersection with, for example, with vital signs. How does that actually work? How do you make that intersection?
Let's take it down to basics. The most basic things that we are doing, we are able to use almost any device with a camera. A smartphone, a laptop, a tablet, any device with a camera. And using the camera, we're able to extract vital signs. And how we do that, just in a very high level. So, any kind of a smartwatch that you're having, you're able to see those kind of a blinking lights at the back of your smartwatch. And those blinking lights actually using the same technology for the past 80 years, PPG, photoplasmography, which basically means you're sending a light beam to the skin, you're seeing the blood flow behind the skin, and then you can estimate things like heart rate and other things of observations. What we are doing, we're able to analyze the light reflection intensity from the environment that comes back from your face skin to the camera lens. And by analyzing that, and that's a lot of signal processing capabilities, a lot of cleanup, a lot of screening, a lot of filtering, a lot of very interesting and exciting technology, we're able to get the exact same signal quality, over 30 dB of PPG just from the person's face. So basically exactly like the oximeters that you put on your finger or the Apple Watch, we're getting the same signal quality just from the camera. And having the ability to have this kind of information in your face, and now we went to move to something much more exciting, how we can analyze multiple locations in your face to get multiple PPG, and then we can get PTT to anyone who's interested about that, and then we can get so much more cool information just from the person's face. It's very important to say that we're never analyzing facial expressions or eye motion or anything like that. Everything is about just getting good pieces of skin that have good light reflection and to get the PPG. Once we have that, then the fun starts. We're able to transform it to multiple types of vital signs. We're able to get extremely interesting insights about the person's physical condition and to provide it to whoever wishes. So I think that's the most basic core thing. You have a camera, we will be able to extract vital signs. That's how easy it is.
And I think one of the most important pieces of the puzzle here is the timing of this, because it sounds like you have an incredible team and an incredible product with incredible technology. You still need people to have cameras, and what we've been saying in the past 6 and 7 years is we've been seeing the dissemination of smartphones, in places where they might not have clean water, but they have a smartphone, which is, something that's a little hard to grasp, at least in my mind. yet it makes perfect sense why this is the right time, the right place, and it sounds like you're working on some really, really incredible things. David, I'm so sad that I called this show 20-minute leaders and not 30-minute leaders, because I have about 30 more questions I need to ask you. But I do have a few fun questions for you before we go.
Please.
All right. Favorite subject, I guess in middle school, because I don't think you made it to high school. So we'll go with middle school.
Yeah, sort of middle school and just the beginning of high school. So I guess I had two very interesting subjects that I was always after. I guess one was classical physics. I'm talking about classical, energy, force, nothing have to do with quantum mechanics or anything like that. That was always interesting. And the second subject was about how not to be in school. What can I do in order not to stay in school? So that was also a very interesting subject for me.
I love it. Somebody that you look up to, somebody that, inspires you on a regular basis, some sort of a role model.
The easiest answer will be Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. I don't care. I love them and I admire them in some way, but those are not people that I guess, admire to the heart. There are several very interesting people, but I think I really admire my parents that they were able to stick with me. And my wife, I guess I admire my wife as well. And several people from the history that people don't really know. For example, there was a really interesting rabbi. I'm not a religious guy, but I really love smart people. It doesn't matter whether they're Christian or Jewish. But there was a very interesting guy from the 1850s that was called Rabbi Menachem Mendel from Kutsk. And you should really read quotes that this guy said, but he said something really interesting. He said, things that come from the heart enters the heart, but also from the heart that they came out from. And that means just, say good things, not only for the other side to get them into their heart, but also for you to understand that it's so important. Anyhow, I really like him.
I love it. And 3 words you would use to describe yourself.
I guess I'm a common people. I'm a common guy. I know that a lot of people see it as a joke, but I really think that I'm a common guy. 3 words, I guess. Loving. Everything is about love. Love what you do. Love the people. Love your coworkers. Love your parents. Love. I'm a loving guy. I'm an extremely intrigued guy. I find everything interesting. And the third thing is that passion, I guess.
David, I just want to be your friend. So
we are friends already. Come on.
There you go. David, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it. I'm leaving here with so much more energy than when I came in with, both the philosophical question of entrepreneurship, moving on to this idea of, we have this global problem that is really difficult, but there is a bunch of circumstances that are allowing for a wonderful team to come and create really meaningful technology to help transform it. And I feel like we're only starting to see the seeds of it. And I cannot wait to see where this goes and how this is going to transform both my life, but also the lives of billions of others that aren't as fortunate to be living in a developed area that have this access. So David, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a wonderful day and Chag Sameach, of course.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.